In part one, we talked about why your brain gets stuck in loops, how overthinking isn't you being weak, but your mind trying to protect you from uncertainty. But what if overthinking was never just in your brain? What if ancient medicine saw it in your whole body 2,000 years before modern psychology? Long before brain scans, healers in India and China were mapping the mind. They didn't have a word for anxiety disorder, they had something deeper. They observed patterns. And both Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine noticed the same thing. Overthinking doesn't just stay as a thought, it settles somewhere in the body. In traditional Chinese medicine, there's an idea called the spleen system. Not just the organ you know from biology class, but an entire system of digestion, of transformation. The spleen is said to house your intellect, your your ability to focus, to study, to think clearly. And when that system is overworked by too much thinking, too much worrying, too much mental churning, the spleen's energy gets knotted. In Chinese medicine, they say, pensiveness knots the qi. Thinking, which should flow like water, starts to stagnate. And where does that stagnation show up? Often in the center of your body, in your digestion. That heavy feeling after overthinking, the knot in your stomach. Have you ever noticed that when you overthink, your appetite changes? You feel bloated, or you lose hunger, or you crave something sweet without being hungry? Traditional Chinese medicine observed this thousands of years ago. The gut and the mind were never separate. Overthinking was not a brain problem alone. It was a digestion of thoughts that didn't get digested. Then there is the heart. In Chinese medicine, the heart doesn't just pump blood. It houses the shen, your spirit, your calm presence, your ability to rest. When the spleen is knotted with too many thoughts, it cannot nourish the heart. And when the heart is not nourished, the shen has nowhere to rest. That is why overthinking often comes at night. The mind can't settle. Now, let's travel to India. Ayurveda sees it differently, but says something strikingly similar. Ayurveda speaks of Vata, the wind element, light, dry, moving, quick. Vata governs all movement in the body, including the movement of thoughts. When Vata is balanced, thoughts move like a gentle breeze, creative, light, flowing. But when Vata is aggravated by lack of sleep, irregular routine, too much stimulation, too much worry, the wind becomes a storm. Thoughts move too fast, too many at once, dry, scattered. Ayurveda calls this an aggravated pranavayu, the wind that governs the mind. The mind becomes like leaves in a windstorm. Nothing can settle. And just like in Chinese medicine, it doesn't stay in the head. Ayurveda also speaks of manas, the mind, and how it gets clouded by tamas, by heaviness and inertia. When you overthink for hours, you feel heavy afterward, right? Not light, but drained. That heaviness is not imaginary. The ancient texts describe it as the mind losing its clarity, its sattva. The more you churn, the heavier you feel. The heavier you feel, the more you churn. What's beautiful is modern science is now catching up. We now talk about the gut-brain axis, how your gut bacteria talk to your brain, how stress changes digestion, something both Ayurveda and Chinese medicine said for thousands of years. They never saw the mind as separate from the body. Overthinking was a whole body experience, a digestion problem, a wind problem, a rhythm problem. So if overthinking lives in the whole body, not just the brain, then calming the mind cannot be just about thinking differently. It must also be about living differently, about rhythm, about digestion, about rest. And this is where part 3 comes in. Because if Ayurveda and Chinese medicine described where overthinking lives, the Bhagavad Gita and Buddhism described how to sit with it without becoming it, how to quiet the storm without fighting the wind.